All right, hey guys, welcome to another episode of Sexual Mastery. I'm Jonathan White. I'm here to help you master your sexual energy so you can magnetize your ideal life. I've helped hundreds of men from all over the world master their sexual energy and step into their sexual power. Hey, what's up, Mr. Big? All right, so today I'm going to be talking about evolved sex. So when we look at sex, we often, most people think of sex as a purely physical act, and we are often conditioned to see it as such. In this modern age, we mostly learn about sex through porn, through movies. We don't have much of a sexual education. So we develop this very limited view of what sex actually is and the potential that it has. And unfortunately, most people keep this limited perspective and this limited connection with their sexuality throughout their entire life. We live in a hypersexualized society, someone just said. Yes, it's true. But at the same time, we're not taught how to actually connect with this sexual power, how to harmoniously connect with it. So it's kind of this contradiction. We're bombarded with sexual energy and sexual stimulation, but at the same time, it's something that we kind of suppress. We don't really openly talk about our sexuality, and we don't really talk about how we can improve our sexuality and make it more of a deep experience, right? So just some of the things I'm going to be addressing today. So sex is something more than just this primal expression that we have. Obviously it's a very important force in our life. It's a very powerful drive. The sexual impulse is one of the most powerful impulses we have as humans, and it really drives our life, many aspects of our life. It drives people to seek relationships, to connect with others, or just to get laid, and it drives people to find these relationships. Sometimes people will be in these very unhealthy, unhappy relationships, but they stay in them simply because they're getting sex, they're getting something from the other person. So it's this very powerful drive, and there's many layers to it. But unfortunately, it's very unconscious for most people, and they never truly reach the full potential that they could reach by working with their sexual energy. So sex is something more than just an animalistic drive. It's a deep connection. It's multidimensional. When you have sex with someone, you're connecting on many different levels. Obviously, you're connecting physically, but you're also connecting emotionally, spiritually, energetically, and you're forming these deep ties with people. The nature of sexual energy is that it bonds us to things. It's like a glue. And when you've slept with someone, you stay attached to them. You still feel that person. When you've been in a long-term relationship with someone, it's very difficult to when you break up with them, it's very difficult to sort of move on from that because you're tied to that person. This is the nature of sexual energy. It ties us to things. And so this can obviously be a good or a bad thing. We can use it to tie our things to tie ourselves to beneficial things. We can use it to bond with creativity, with positivity. We can nourish ourselves, nourish our partners, and connect ourselves to love and harmony with it. And at the same time, we can connect ourselves to destruction, to anger, to violence. And we see this happening quite commonly in the world, unfortunately. So this is really the nature of sexual energy. So it's very important to develop a harmonious connection with this force. Hey, thanks. Came here just to like the video. Thanks, brother. So one of the other aspects of sex, why is sex so powerful? Why are we all so obsessed with it? And obviously it's a very primal drive. The drive, it's a survival instinct, the drive to keep the species going. Obviously that's one of the primary functions of sex and one of the more primal aspects of sex. But at the same time, one of the functions of sex is that, as I said, it bonds us together, but it also helps us to transcend this polarity that we're in. We're in these polarized bodies, we're in these male, female bodies. And when you have sex with someone, you're resolving that polarity momentarily. You feel this deep connection with someone, and you can really enhance and deepen that connection and feel at one with the entire universe. You can really go into some very deep states of transcending this state of polarity that we're born into. Being in these polarized bodies, it can be a very frustrating thing. We often feel very separated. So this is one of the functions of sex, is that it dissolves this polarity and it creates a neutral force. When yin and yang are combined and they couple, they sort of neutralize each other, and this neutral force is formed. And we can really tap into that neutral force to enhance our health and our life. Hey, thanks, Peter Rodriguez. So this is one of the powerful aspects of sexuality. So one of look, I'm going to talk about some of the more unconscious aspects and problems of sexuality. So a very destructive pattern that people often get into with sex is they use it, specifically men often, we use sex often as a method of discharging our energy. A lot of men approach sex as a method to just release their tension, release their stress, their anger, whatever, their frustration. And unfortunately, they often discharge this into their partner. You know, the nature of the woman is more of women are yin in nature, so they receive things, they take on things. So when a man discharges his negativity to his partner and she carries that, you know, we get into these, and we've been seeing this for generations, for thousands of years, of men discharging their negativity into women. And it can be a double-bladed sword, of course. Women can discharge negativity into men as well. So when you're using sex just as this method of discharging you, you're depleting your energy, you're throwing your energy away. And one of the problems with a man frequently ejaculating is he depletes his life force. He's throwing away his life force. You don't have to ejaculate every time you have sex. You can learn to have non-ejaculatory orgasms. The semen is the essence of the body. It's really our masculine essence, our masculine power. So to just constantly ejaculate it, you are depleting yourself. So the key is to get away from this habit of approaching sex as a method to discharge energy from your body, and instead use it to build up your energy, to recycle this energy. What happens when a man ejaculates? What he's feeling, you know, ejaculatory orgasms are very addictive for men because they're very intense, but they're very short-lived. Hey, Andre, thanks for joining. So what a man's feeling when he ejaculates is this, you know, short-lived intent. He's feeling his life force shooting out of his penis, and it's, you know, it's very intense, but afterwards he feels drained, he feels limp, he feels tired. A new pattern that you can create is to instead of discharging this energy outward, you can internally circulate that energy. You can circulate that within the body. So as this powerful sexual energy builds up, you circulate it throughout your body internally. Instead of ejecting it out in an ejaculation, you're internally moving that energy. This orgasm starts and it pulsates and it resonates, it vibrates throughout the body, and you get into very, very powerful states. The energy just keeps building and building, and then you exchange it with your partner, and it's really limitless how much energy you can build up with sex when you're approaching sex in this way. It's very, very powerful. I'm gonna grab a bit of my smoothie here. So for men, it's very important to overcome this urge to constantly ejaculate. This is a very self-destructive habit. And we often learn this habit in our teenage years when we go through puberty. We hear that, oh, well, it's normal. A man's experience of sex should end in an ejaculation. So a man associates ejaculation and orgasm as the same thing, but they're not the same thing. And by overcoming this urge to constantly ejaculate, you're able to contain this life force, to contain this powerful energy, and use that as a fuel for your life, for your creative projects, for your ability to contribute to the world. So when you overcome this urge to ejaculate, then you get out of the self-destructive habit of discharging your energy during sex, and instead you can build up your energy and exchange that energy with your partner, get into very high states of energy, very high states of being. And this is really the secret of many of the masters of the past and present times as well. So ejaculation control is crucial for a man. Just like everything in our life, we train, you know, we train in everything else in our life. So why should sex be any different? You need to train yourself to be able to control your ejaculation as a man, to be able to overcome this urge to discharge your life force every time you have sex. And obviously this takes some training, but A man who's a master of his ejaculation, a man who's a master of his sexual energy, he can be a master of anything. And this is a very empowered man who can really change the world in a very positive way if he chooses. So ejaculation control is crucial for a man. How do we do this? Of course, I talk about this in other videos, but basically you need to get in touch with your body, get in touch with your breath, be able to keep yourself in a calm state during arousal, be able to keep your energy flowing during arousal. This is the whole key, is that when you're aroused, your sexual energy is building and building, starts becoming congested in your genitals because they can't hold that energy, and it just shoots out the penis because that's the only place it has to go. But when you open up the energy channels internally, the energy channels of the body, you have somewhere for this aroused energy to flow, and you can move it internally. Hey, thanks, Jonas. So this is one of the keys to having more evolved sex. As a man, you want to be in control of your ejaculation. And you can also, as I said before, learn to separate orgasm from ejaculation. You can have multiple orgasms. You can have very, very powerful full body orgasms without ever ejaculating. And it's a different type of orgasm. It's different, but it's very, very powerful. It's very subtle in the beginning, but it builds and it builds. And what happens here is that this sexual energy, this arousal, it builds up in the genitals, it spreads through the rest of the body, and the entire body starts to pulsate with this orgasmic energy. And as you keep channeling this energy, keep circulating this energy during sex, and you keep building it up with sexual stimulation as well, it just becomes like this atomic firepower in your body. It's incredibly powerful, these full body orgasms. And you can have them over and over again because energy just builds up and it builds up, and it's just pulsing through your body. And when you're with a partner, it's moving it through both of your bodies. You create this link, you create this circuit, and the energy just keeps expanding, it keeps enhancing, it keeps growing, and it's very, very powerful. So this is one of the keys of having more evolved sex, is you're consciously exchanging your energy. When you have sex, you're already exchanging energy, but it's completely unconscious. You're not aware of what's happening, but the energy is flowing like crazy when you're having sex. So when you become aware of this, when you become aware of your internal state of energy, you can start to guide that energy. You can guide it around your body, through your partner's body as well. You can actually use this energy to heal yourself. You can use it to heal your body. You can use it to heal your partner. You can send it to different organs. If you're having some sort of problem, you can send it to that area to heal it, because sexual energy is regenerative. It's restorative. It's what creates life. As man, our semen multiplies thousands of times, millions of times to become human bodies. This is the power of sexual energy. So when you send that energy to anywhere within your body, instead of ejecting it out of your body, if you keep that energy and use your awareness to move it to different parts of the body, you can really heal yourself and charge yourself up. You can have orgasms in your brain, orgasms in your organs. You can have cosmic orgasms where your energy is expanding, and because when a man and a woman are connecting, they get into this resonance. Your energy centers are aligning, they're pulsating, they're resonating with each other, and it creates this very powerful effect. And you start to resonate with higher polarities as well, like the sun and the moon, the stars, and it's just this crazy, powerful, cosmic, orgasmic experience. These are some of the things that happen when you're working with higher conscious sexuality. There's a question: how do you prevent retrograde ejaculation? So retrograde ejaculation is where you ejaculate into the bladder. So it may seem at first like you've had a dry orgasm, but then you go to urinate and it's very foamy because your urine ended up in your bladder. So usually this happens if you've gone over the point of no return, the point at which the prostate starts spasming and fluid starts moving. What you want to do is stop stimulation before this point, because once you hit this point, there's not much you can do to prevent the ejaculation from happening. So you need to stop before the point of no return and learn to not go beyond that point. That's how you prevent retrograde ejaculation. And so you can really form this much deeper conscious connection through sex. As I said, it's a multi-dimensional experience. our initial impression of sex is this purely physical act, but that's very limited, and it's never going to really satisfy you. You're always craving more and more when your sexual experience is limited to the lower centers of the body. It's never fulfilling. When you get your whole body involved in the process, when you're connecting from not just the genitals, when you're connecting from your heart, you're connecting from your mind, your spirit, your spiritual connection, that's when the real magic happens. That's when sex becomes this incredibly powerful, multidimensional experience of union, of bonding, of transformation. That's what is really the potential of working with your sexual energy and having conscious sex with a partner. And so this has completely changed my definition of sex and what my experience with sexuality is. As a teenager, I was very controlled by the sexual impulses, as many men in this world are. I was always looking at porn. I was always just trying to seek sex from other people, and it was just draining my energy. I was using, like most men, I was using it as a method to discharge this tension that was building up. And once I started learning these practices, I studied in Taoist sexual practices and some tantric practices, and learning to consciously work with sexual energy, my whole experience of sexuality completely changed. It was no longer this, because often men, they go into sex and they're just like, they're single-mindedly focused on this point of orgasm, usually an ejaculatory orgasm. They're like, okay, I gotta, rush into this, and they're just single-mindedly goal-oriented on that one point, which is over in 5 seconds. So instead of that, now for me, sex is more of just enjoying every sensation that's happening, feeling what's happening in my body, feeling how I'm resonating with my partner, and just guiding that energy consciously, guiding it through the organs. And it's just a whole different experience. And I don't have a desire to ejaculate frequently. And so it's night and day, the difference in consciously having sex, having the more evolved sex versus the purely physical sex that most people are having. So I'm going to answer some questions now. Some people have been asking questions. Someone towards the beginning asked, is jacking off every day bad for you? If you're ejaculating, then yes. What are my thoughts on Kareza? Yeah, Kareza it's a great practice. Basically, Kareza is, I've seen a few different versions of it, but essentially it's very slow, mindful sexual stimulation. So it's about making sex or sexual activity more of a meditation versus, just fast sort of sport friction sex where you're just thrusting away. So I think Kareza is a great training tool in sort of changing the goal-oriented mindset most people have towards sex. So it's more about just feeling every sensation that's happening in the moment. So I think it's a great training tool. I think in the long run, it's limited in itself, but as a training tool, I think it's very powerful. As one of the first sexual practices I learned was Kareza. Some good practices for beginners to start to feel the power of sexual energy. I always recommend Qigong. It's a very powerful practice. It's one of my daily practices, and I always teach men this because Qigong is a very powerful method to start to feel the energy moving in your body, start to open up the channels. And you can do this with meditation, with breath techniques, but I find that Qigong is very effective because you're physically moving, but you're moving in very slow mindful movements and in a relaxed manner, which tends to correlate to opening the energy channels and feeling that experience of internal energy throughout your body. If you guys have any more questions, go ahead and throw them at me. So I want to give you guys just a bit of a technique to start to deepen your experience with sex. So this is very, very simple. When you're with a partner, before any sort of sexual activity, before foreplay or anything, just sit with your partner, and you can either sit in front of each other, facing each other, or you can actually have, more of a traditional yab-yum type of position where the man's sitting and the woman is sitting on his lap, and you're sort of embracing, and just breathe together. Just breathe together in harmony. You breathe, you lock your breath. So you inhale at the same time, you exhale at the same time, and just listen to your partner's breath and feel it in connection with your breath. So when you breathe together, it's very powerful. It gets you into resonance with this person. The breath is the most simple way to unify the body and the mind and to change your state that you're in. And so when you harmonize, when you lock your breath with your partner, you build up resonance with them, you harmonize with them. It's a very powerful way to drop into a very deeply connected state with them. And if you can keep doing this throughout sex, it's very powerful, or at least like have certain durations during sex where you sort of stop and reharmonize your breath together. It's very, very powerful. So that's a very simple technique you can use right away to deepen your sexual connection with your partner. All right, I've seen a few more questions. I'm going to answer them. What about blue balls? Yeah, this is a common question. Blue balls means that your energy is stuck, basically. It's not moving. So to prevent this, it's important to massage your testicles every day for a man. If you're practicing semen retention, I mean, any men in general should do this, but especially if you're practicing semen retention, you should massage your testicles every day. Open up the microcosmic orbit. I've got some videos on my YouTube channel of working with the microcosmic orbit. This is crucial to begin any sort of sexual energy work. You need to have a place to move that energy. So work with the microcosmic orbit and learn testicle breathing. And when you develop skill with these practices, you will no longer have blue balls. That's been my experience with it. Is spinal cord breathing like Qigong? Yeah, it's a simple Qigong exercise where you're basically opening the back. It's similar to cat-cow in yoga, but you're like standing up and moving your arms with it. So yeah, spinal cord breathing is a basic Qigong form. Never understood the difference between Tai Chi and Qigong. If you don't mind, answer. Yeah, so Tai Chi is actually a form of Qigong. It's a form that, as I understand, the stories are that Tai Chi was developed as a method of, it's more of a martial form of Qigong, but so it's a bit more like an advanced Qigong practice, basically. I do study and practice Tai Chi as well. So basically Tai Chi is Qigong, but Qigong is not necessarily Tai Chi. So I hope that answers your question. But it's a great practice as well for opening up the body if you find a good teacher, because a lot of people are doing Tai Chi purely as a physical exercise, but there's a few internal mechanics you need to be aware of for it to actually be an internal energy practice. Microcosmic orbit is a must for multiple orgasms. This is a question. Yes, the full body orgasms, there is like the methods of squeezing the pelvic floor at just the right moment before you ejaculate, that you can have some purely genital orgasms without ejaculating. And in my experience, I've never been impressed with these techniques. But to experience the higher full body orgasms, then yeah, you want to open your microcosmic orbit. When you edge, do you experience some sort of watery eyes? It seems to happen to me when I practice. I can't say that I've experienced this. Benefits of sunlight on genitals. Good question. Yeah, super important to get some sunlight on your genitals if you can. I saw this study where it showed that if a man gets about 20 minutes of sunlight on his genitals, that increases his testosterone levels by about 200%. Sunlight is so important, for vitamin D, for hormone production. Most people, we in this modern world, we often live in these caves, these apartments or houses, and we're disconnected from nature. So it's so important to get outside, get sun on your skin. I'm in Arizona right now, and I have a private little space in the yard where I'm able to get some full body sun. So important. If you can get some sun on your body, I cannot recommend that enough. Mastering my internal energy would help manipulating external energy. Depends what you mean by that. Been using cannabis and tobacco for sexual healing practices. What do you think about these sacred plants? I used to be a regular cannabis user. My experience now is that marijuana has its ups and downs. I personally don't use it, at least not very often. I do have it on occasion, just to kind of have some fun with friends, whatever. But what I find is that when I have marijuana, I feel really great when I'm on it, and I'm like really in touch with my energy. But afterwards, I feel like really, really not good. It burns up your gene. A lot of these plant medicines, they have a price basically that you pay by getting that high state, and they burn up your gene, which is your physical essence. So personally, I feel depleted for days after having any sort of like psychoactive substance. So I don't really use them very often at this time in my life. So that's just been my experience. And I never experienced that until I started doing a lot of internal practices and got very in touch with my energy. I'm just very sensitive to how things affect me. So using any sort of psychoactive plant just really throws me off. Even caffeine, I can't really do. So that's my experience with that. But if it works for you, then that's fine. I'm not saying like don't do these things, but just be mindful that there's often a price to pay for the high that you get from these things. Would love to see more videos on Tai Chi and Qigong if you care to share. Yes, I've been meaning to make some more videos on Qigong practices, so I'll definitely do that. Best advice for beginning no-fap, semen retention, practicing Taoist forms. The best advice would be you need to change your habits. When you have a certain routine that you follow, you're stuck into these routines. Basically, if you want to change a habit, you need to change a lot of things in your life. So if you're trying to quit porn, quit masturbating, things like that, you need something to replace that. So I always recommend physical activity is a good replacement because you get that natural, boost of doing something physical, feeling like you've accomplished something because you went to the gym, had a good workout or whatever, or more creative projects in your life. If you're the creative type, playing music, writing, painting, something like that, that's a better use of your sexual energy. So yeah, if you're just getting into semen retention, you really want to keep yourself busy with creative projects and positive outlets for your energy, or else you'll just find yourself going right back into those old patterns, basically. Does calisthenics work well with no-fap lifestyle? Yeah. Any sort of physical exercise is great because you're going to have a lot of energy building up, and you need to keep yourself physically active and creatively active as well. You need to keep your mind and your body engaged, or else you're going to find your impulses are going to get the better of you. So yeah, my experience with no-fap and women attraction. Well, I don't claim to be a no-fapper. I practice semen retention, but yeah, there's a definite correlation between, because think about it, a man who's constantly ejaculating, as I said before, he's discharging himself, he's depleting his energy, and he's often in a depleted state. Are women attracted to a man in a depleted state, or are they attracted to a man who's overflowing with life force, with abundance, with positivity? Because that's what happens when you practice semen retention. You just have this tremendous amount of life force. You look younger, you feel younger. So yeah, I would say there's a definite correlation between those things. Do you have any practices to feel more horny? Anything that boosts your sexual energy is going to make you feel more horny. In Chinese medicine, the kidneys are related to your sexual energy. So kidney boosting things, Qigong is great. Any sort of kidney building Qigong forms are great. Herbs, you can take herbs, goji berries, anything high in zinc like pumpkin seeds. If you eat animal products, you can have oysters. Things like this will boost your sexual energy and make you feel hornier if that's what you want. I see porn and I can't get excited anymore. Well, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It feels animalistic and weird. Yeah, well, your relationship to it has changed, so that's a positive thing. And often when you're getting into semen retention or these, sexual practices, you may feel like you have less sexual desire, but the truth of it is you're starting to actually transmute that sexual energy. So it's not necessarily something to be worried about unless you're like with a partner and then you have like you don't feel horny or something. So that's the only point I think that you should actually be concerned. So I would say don't worry about it too much at all. Any specific energy for testicle massage? Basically, you just hold your testicles between your fingers and rub them. Put a lot of pressure on them. Rub them clockwise, counterclockwise, and rub them until you have like a really, it'll be a little intense in the beginning, and this like strong sensation will build up. And then you can do some testicle breathing to move that energy that you've stimulated throughout your body. See if there's any more questions. There's something you would recommend? Oh, okay. Basically, Juan's asking me, focusing on the microcosmic orbit. So he's saying that he focuses on his microcosmic orbit throughout the day. Yeah, that's a great thing to do. I run my orbit every day and other energy channels as well. So yeah, it's definitely good. It's good to like spend some time like just sitting down in more of a sitting internal meditation to like really feel that channel and really get it open. So yeah, it's great that you're working with it throughout the day. Was it me that mentioned something about 4,000 ejaculations? No, I don't remember saying anything about 4,000 ejaculations. What context is that in? All right, guys, if you have any more questions, go ahead and send them my way. Otherwise, I'm going to jump off of here in a minute. All right, guys, thank you for joining me today. It's been another great episode. Just to throw some things out there, some announcements. Like if you pass that point, it's over the limit for the body. 4,000 ejaculations. Yeah, there's different theories about this. So the question is, there's a myth that men only have 4,000 ejaculations in their life. It's tough to say. I've heard different myths like this, but yeah, I can't say for sure whether that's true or not. Okay, guys. Yeah, I want to say that I'm doing a couple of different retreats this year. I'm doing one in Canada. It's going to be in September, I believe, and I'm doing another one in Thailand in October. So stay posted on that. More information comes soon about that. Very exciting things, and some other things coming up soon as well. So stay tuned. Thank you, everyone, for joining me, and I will see you guys next week, same time. Have a great day.